Some of you are not going to like me talking about this. I'm sorry, but don't shoot the messenger. New study says that almost half of tattoo inks contain chemicals that could cause cancer. For all of you that have gotten body ink, I always wondered if it was a good idea to see people that were using so much and consuming so much to go ahead and take on so many tattoos, especially not just that they're concealed, that they're somewhat subtle and they still provide the same messaging, that they still hold a message close to you or a person that's close to you, whatever, a tribute. But the problem is that now we're learning about this. While there were so many people that were so free willing to go ahead and get tattoos because, oh, they look so cool, this and that, right? Well, look where we are now. This study, it scares me. And I feel bad for some of the people that might not ever notice this, that if something does happen here, God forbid, there are some people out there that realize that that the inks will have caused something that will create, possible cancer is a horrible thing to hear. Let's get into the story from Yahoo News. Researchers have found that nearly 50% of the tattoo inks contain chemicals that cause cancer, that could cause cancer. There was a meeting from the American Chemical Society in Chicago, Illinois. Researchers at Binghamton University presented their study. And there are two parts of tattoo inks, a pigment and a carrier solution. The pigment is a molecular solid compound. The carrier fluids transport the pigment through layers of the skin. And there were 56 popular inks that were tested before discovering that half of them contained the chemical that was not included on the label. They said that 23 of 56 different inks analyzed to date suggesting an azo-containing dye is present. Daily Mail spoke to the group about this work and that azo compounds can degenerate when exposed to a lot of bacteria or under ultraviolet light, which comes through sunlight and becomes carcinogenic. So it's the ink when you are directing the sunlight that it can become toxic and could create those chemicals to blend into the skin to create something that could cause cancer. They said that we don't necessarily know about what the pigments break down into, so that's the real concern. But it's possible you might have pigments that by themselves are safe, but that photo decomposes into something of concern. And that researchers detected ethanol, which can be used as a blood thinner, in the ink. And it's still undermined if that can put people's health at risk or not. But ethanol, that's part of this. They investigated the size of the particles within 16 inks used for tattoos, and that half of those inks had particles under 100 nanometers, concerning because the particles are small enough to get through the cell membrane and potentially cause harm. So even just the needle that's being used and the particles that make up the tattoo can go through and absorb so much into the skin that can cause harm as well. And they also noted there are many types of pigments that are used specifically for tattoos, that big companies manufacture pigments for anything such as paint and textiles. These same pigments are used in tattoo inks. So you're getting on your skin the same thing that is being used for paint and textiles. Like just using, I don't like the sound of that. Now, the European Union recently banned the use of two pigments for this. Blue 15 to 3 and green 7. And those certain chemicals in the ink can cause cancer or genetic mutations. And the ban was placed on 27 countries. The colors are still being used in the United States. Oh my God. More in the story, Ars Technica talks about this. And another story says that every time we looked at one of the inks, we found something that gave me pause. So the same scientists at Binghamton University or State University of New York, that's what they talked about here. And they also mentioned here that, and this is just an example here, typical tattoo ink contains one or more pigments within a carrier package to help deliver the pigments to the skin. They can either be small bits of solids or discrete molecules such as titanium dioxide or iron oxide for white or rust brown colors. As for the carrier packages, so we're talking more about the colored inks. Most ink manufacturers use grain or rubbing alcohol, sometimes with a bit of witch hazel, added to the mix to help the skin heal after the tattooing process. There may be other additives to adjust the viscosity and keep pigment particles suspended in the carrier package. And here's what some of the inks can look like. They say that half the 18 inks are analyzed with electron microscopy and had particles in a very worrisome range. Let me put this here. They said this: when you get down to the size regime, nanoparticles penetrating into cells, getting into the nucleus, and doing damage, possibly causing cancer. It's serious. Funny, I actually had my physical the other day, and the doctor physically or specifically asked, "Do I have tattoos?" And I said, "No." But it was something because it was a vice: smoking, drinking. Do you have tattoos? It was something asked as part of it was a detriment to your health. That's the only reason she would ask that in my physical. It's interesting about that. So they've created a fledgling website called What's in My Ink. The research will ultimately constitute the first comprehensive study of tattoo inks in the market. And there's only rudimentary data from pioneer peer-reviewed studies available on the site. But once the team completes their analysis of commercial tattoo inks and the resulting data, they will serve as a valuable customer resource or consumer resource for information about the composition of tattoo inks. Let's go to the website, whatisinmyink.com. So take a look at that and see if there's anything you need to worry about for yourselves. Just be safe. I mean, I understand there are many people that are very depraved and debaucherous, but please be safe and check on this. I want everyone to be healthy out there. I don't want to discourage people from doing tattoos. I'm not trying to put anybody down that does. I just want to be careful for you guys. That's all I'm doing. Thanks for listening in.